All right, so today we're going to be diving deep into the Bitcoin Standard by Saifedean Ammous.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you shared this one with me, and I have to say it's a fascinating read.
It is. Yeah.
We're going to be unpacking Ammous's argument that Bitcoin could be way more than just a digital currency.
Right.
He actually thinks it might
Nice.
be the key to like a whole new monetary system,
Yeah.
something we haven't seen since like the gold standard.
Yeah, what I find so compelling about this book is how it connects the dots between the entire history of money
Right?
and this new technology, Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It's like Ammous is giving us a crash course in economic archaeology
Yeah.
to understand why Bitcoin is such a big deal.
It's like a detective story, except the clues are scattered across like centuries of financial history.
Totally.
I never thought I'd be so captivated by the history of money.
Right.
So let's start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Chapter 1 tackles the fundamental question.
Okay.
What is money, really?
Yeah, Ammous gets right to the core of it. He says money has three main jobs.
Okay.
It's a medium of exchange,
Okay.
a unit of account,
Mm-hmm.
and a store of value.
Right.
Basically, that's what we use to buy and sell stuff.
Yeah.
Measure value
Okay.
and save for the future.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But hold on, how did we even get to money in the first place?
Okay.
Like, was there a time before cash and credit cards and Bitcoin?
Yeah, imagine a world without money.
Okay.
You're a talented programmer, and you need groceries.
All right.
You have to find a grocer who happens to need a website built
Yeah.
and is willing to trade you directly for food.
Yeah.
This is the world of barter.
Oof. Talk about a logistical nightmare.
Right.
So much easier to just pay with cash.
Exactly. Barter gets incredibly complicated fast.
Right.
What if the grocer already has a website?
Mm-hmm.
What if they value your programming skills differently than you value their groceries?
Yeah.
This is what economists call the problem of coincidence of wants.
Okay.
Both sides need to want what the other has at the same time.
At the same time.
It's just not practical for a complex economy.
Right.
Right.
So money solves this by acting as a common medium of exchange.
Right.
Something everyone agrees has value and will accept.
Yes.
It's like a universal translator for trade.
Exactly. Money greases the wheels of the economy,
Yeah.
allowing us to specialize, trade efficiently, and build complex societies.
Okay. So we've established why money is essential. Now, in Chapter 2, Ammous takes us way back to the early days,
Yeah.
exploring those primitive forms of money.
Right.
I was surprised to learn what people used before, coins and paper bills.
Yeah.
Can you give us some examples?
Seashells beads,
Wow.
cattle salt,
Really?
even large stones.
Hmm.
Different cultures used all sorts of things as money.
Interesting.
You might think it's random,
Yeah.
but these early forms of money actually had something in common.
What made them suitable as money?
Yeah.
Were they just rare or valuable in their own right?
They had certain characteristics that made them work. They were durable,
Right.
portable,
Yeah.
divisible, and most importantly, scarce.
Okay.
Imagine using strawberries as money.
Oh, yeah.
Not very durable.
They would rot, right?
You wouldn't want your money rotting away.
No.
And I guess a giant stone wheel wouldn't be easy to carry around to the market.
Yeah, no kidding.
Portability matters.
Right.
Divisibility is also key.
Mhm.
You need to be able to make change.
Yeah.
But scarcity is probably the most crucial factor.
Okay.
If your money is easy to reproduce,
Yeah.
it loses its value.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
It's like if everyone could print their own money,
Right.
it wouldn't be worth much, would it?
Exactly. And this is where it gets really interesting because these properties foreshadow what makes Bitcoin so intriguing.
Okay.
It's digital, so it's easily portable,
Hmm.
divisible, and it has a fixed supply, just like those early forms of money.
Okay. I'm starting to see the connection here.
Yeah.
So let's move on to Chapter 3, where gold takes center stage. Why did gold become the dominant form of money for such a long time?
Think about gold's properties.
All right.
It's incredibly scarce.
Okay.
All the gold ever mined could fit into a cube about 65 feet on each side.
Oh.
Try carrying that around.
That's wild.
It's also almost indestructible.
Yeah.
Fungible, meaning 1 ounce of gold is basically the same as any other ounce,
Mm-hmm.
which is important.
Right.
And it's easily divisible.
So it's not just shiny, it's actually super practical as a form of money.
Ammous argues that gold wasn't chosen randomly.
Okay.
It emerged from a free market
Mm-hmm.
as people naturally gravitated towards the most effective form of money.
Yeah.
No government decree needed.
It's interesting to think about how these properties shaped history.
Right.
You know, if you look back periods when gold was widely used as money, like the Roman Empire,
Yeah.
the Renaissance, even the late 1800s, those were often eras of stability and prosperity.
Right.
Is that just a coincidence?
Amos doesn't think so.
Okay.
He argues that sound money, like gold, leads to economic stability because it can't be easily manipulated.
Right.
It encourages a low time preference, meaning people are more likely to save and invest for the future.
Wait, time preference?
Yeah.
What's that?
Think of it this way.
Okay.
Would you rather have a small reward today or a larger reward a year from now? Your answer reflects your time preference.
Okay.
A low time preference means you value the future more,
Okay.
while a high time preference means you're all about instant gratification.
Okay.
Right.
So someone with high time preference would blow their paycheck on a fancy dinner,
Yeah.
while someone with a low time preference would invest it for retirement.
Exactly.
Okay.
And Amos suggests that sound money like gold encourages a lower time preference
Okay.
because it tends to hold its value over time.
Yeah.
People are more willing to save and invest because they trust that their money won't be significantly devalued by inflation.
That makes a lot of sense. You know, if I knew my money wouldn't lose its value, I'd be more likely to save for the future.
Yeah.
But that brings up a big shift in monetary history.
Okay.
We moved away from the gold standard, didn't we?
I did.
Chapter 4 dives into the rise of government money, what we call fiat currency.
Mm-hmm.
How did that happen?
It was a gradual process, but the 20th century was a turning point,
Okay.
especially with the end of the Bretton Woods Agreement in 1971.
Okay.
That's when the world went all in on fiat currency.
Right.
It's not backed by gold or anything tangible,
Okay.
but by the government's promise.
Okay, so the government's basically saying, trust us, this paper money has value.
Yeah.
But Amos is pretty critical of this system, isn't he?
He is.
Okay.
Amos argues that giving governments control over the money supply is like letting the fox guard the henhouse.
Yeah.
It opens a door to manipulation,
Right.
inflation, and economic instability.
Okay.
He's very concerned about central banks' power to print money.
I'm starting to see why you called this book a detective story. We're uncovering all these hidden forces that shape our financial lives.
Hopefully.
But wouldn't some people argue that central banks are necessary to stabilize economies?
Yeah.
How does Amos address that?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Amos acknowledges that central banks can play a role, in smoothing out economic bumps in the short term.
Right.
But he believes their interventions often create bigger problems down the road.
Okay.
Think about the 2008 financial crisis.
Right.
Many economists argue that the Federal Reserve's easy money policies actually contributed to the housing bubble that burst and caused so much damage.
It's like giving a kid unlimited candy.
Yep.
Might seem fun at first, but it's not healthy in the long run.
Right.
Yeah.
Amos believes that artificially low interest rates and excessive money printing distort market signals,
Right.
lead to malinvestment,
Yeah.
and ultimately make us more vulnerable to booms and busts.
So it's not just about prices going up at the grocery store.
Right.
Inflation can really mess with the whole economic system.
Yep.
I never thought about it that way.
Amos argues that inflation acts like a hidden tax.
Okay.
It erodes the purchasing power of your savings,
Right. Okay.
especially if you're on a fixed income,
Yeah.
and it encourages people to spend rather than save,
Right.
further feeding the cycle of short-term thinking.
It's like we're on a treadmill constantly running just to stay in the same place.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Now, this brings us to a really crucial point that Amos makes in Chapter 6.
Okay.
He dives into the role of prices in a free market.
Right.
We encounter prices every day,
Yeah.
but how do they actually work?
To be honest, I never really thought about prices beyond
Right.
trying to snag a good deal at the store.
Well, prices are more than just numbers on a tag.
Okay.
They act as signals
Okay.
in a free market economy.
Right.
They convey information about supply and demand.
Okay.
When prices are allowed to fluctuate freely, they tell us which goods and services are scarce and which are abundant.
So if the price of coffee suddenly skyrockets,
Right.
it's a sign that there's a shortage, maybe a bad harvest somewhere.
Yeah.
This encourages coffee producers to grow more,
Right.
and it signals to consumers to maybe switch to tea for a while.
Exactly.
Okay.
But Amos argues that this elegant system breaks down when we don't have sound money.
I see.
A stable currency like gold gives us reliable price signals.
Okay.
We can be more confident that price changes are a genuine reflection of supply and demand,
Right.
not just the government printing more money.
But with fiat currency, where the government can manipulate the money supply,
Right.
those signals get distorted, right?
It's like trying to navigate with a compass that's constantly spinning.
Yeah.
You can't be sure if you're heading in the right direction.
Okay.
And these price distortions can lead to some serious problems.
Like what?
Well, think about malinvestment.
Okay.
When the cost of borrowing money is artificially low,
Yeah.
businesses might make investments that seem profitable on paper,
Mm-hmm.
but wouldn't make sense in a stable economy.
So they're making decisions based on faulty information.
Right.
It's like building a house on a shaky foundation.
Yeah.
You might not notice the problem at first, but eventually it's going to crack.
Exactly. And these malinvestments can build up over time, leading to bubbles and those painful economic crashes we've all experienced.
Yeah.
Amos believes that sound money is essential for a healthy, sustainable economy.
Okay.
He sees a direct link between our move away from sound money
Right.
and many of the economic challenges we face today.
That's a pretty sobering thought.
It is.
It makes you realize how much we take our financial system for granted.
Yeah.
So where does Bitcoin fit into all of this?
Okay.
In Chapter 8, Amos finally introduces us to this revolutionary technology.
This is where the book gets really exciting.
Okay.
Remember those desirable properties of money we discussed earlier?
Right.
Scarcity, divisibility, portability.
Yeah.
Bitcoin has them all digitally.
It's like digital gold,
Yeah.
but without the hassle of physically storing it or transporting it.
That's a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
Bitcoin runs on a technology called blockchain,
Right.
which is basically a decentralized public ledger that records every transaction.
Okay.
This means it's incredibly secure
Right.
and transparent.
Okay.
No single entity controls it, not even a government.
Okay. I'm starting to grasp the technical side a little better,
Okay.
but I still don't fully understand how blockchain works.
Yeah.
Can you give us a simplified explanation?
Imagine a giant digital spreadsheet that's shared across thousands of computers worldwide.
Okay.
Every time someone makes a Bitcoin transaction,
Mm-hmm.
it's recorded on this spreadsheet.
Okay.
And because so many computers have a copy of the ledger,
Right.
it's virtually impossible to tamper with.
So it's like a massive, constantly updated record that everyone can see.
Exactly.
That's a pretty ingenious way to prevent fraud.
Exactly. And this decentralized nature makes Bitcoin very resilient.
Okay.
No single point of failure.
Right.
No government can shut it down or confiscate your coins.
Yeah.
You're in control of your own money.
So if Amos is right,
Yeah.
Bitcoin addresses many of the problems he sees with fiat currency.
Yeah.
It can't be manipulated by central banks.
Right.
And it gives individuals more financial freedom.
Yeah.
It sounds almost too good to be true.
It's certainly a radical idea, and it's still early days.
Right.
But the potential is huge.
Yeah.
And Amos doesn't shy away from exploring that potential in Chapter 9.
Oh.
He dives into the various ways Bitcoin could be used.
All right, let's get into the use cases.
Yeah.
What is Bitcoin actually good for besides being a store of value like gold?
Amos lays out several compelling applications.
Okay.
First, there's international settlement.
Okay.
Traditional cross-border payments can be a nightmare.
Yeah.
They're slow, expensive, and often involve multiple intermediaries.
Right.
Bitcoin offers a faster, cheaper, and more efficient alternative.
So instead of waiting days for a wire transfer to clear, you could send Bitcoin across the world in minutes with minimal fees. That would be a game changer for businesses that operate globally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it can be incredibly empowering for individuals
Right.
who need to send money to family members in other countries,
Yeah.
especially those who don't have access to traditional banking services.
What about other applications?
Yeah.
Does Bitcoin have the potential to go beyond just payments?
Amos argues that Bitcoin could become much more than just a payment system.
Okay.
He sees it as a potential platform for innovation,
Right.
a foundation for new financial tools and services that we haven't even imagined yet.
Hmm.
Think about decentralized lending platforms, prediction markets,
Wow.
even new forms of digital identity.
It's like the early days of the internet when people were just beginning to grasp the possibilities of this new technology.
Right.
Exciting, but also a bit daunting, right?
Exactly. And with any new technology, there are challenges to overcome.
Right?
Amos dedicates Chapter 10 to addressing some of the common criticisms and concerns about Bitcoin.
Let's tackle those head on. The environmental impact of Bitcoin mining is a big one that comes up a lot.
It is.
What does Amos have to say about that?
It's true that Bitcoin mining consumes a significant amount of energy.
Yeah.
However, Amos argues that it's important to put this into perspective.
Okay.
First, he points out that Bitcoin mining is actually incentivizing the development of renewable energy sources.
How so?
Miners are constantly seeking the cheapest sources of electricity to power their operations.
Okay.
And renewable energy, like solar and wind,
Yeah.
is becoming increasingly cost competitive.
Right.
So in a way, Bitcoin is pushing the energy industry towards cleaner solutions.
That's a fascinating argument.
Yeah.
It's like Bitcoin is accidentally becoming a catalyst for a green energy revolution.
Yeah.
But what about the sheer amount of energy used?
Right.
Even if it's clean energy, is it sustainable?
Amos argues that we also need to compare Bitcoin's energy consumption to that of the existing financial system.
Right.
Think about all the banks, data centers, ATMs, and the vast infrastructure that supports traditional finance.
Right.
It consumes a massive amount of energy, much of which is not from renewable sources.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
We often focus on Bitcoin's use without considering the energy footprint of the system it's trying to disrupt.
Exactly. And if Bitcoin can ultimately replace or streamline some of those traditional financial functions,
Right.
the net energy savings could be significant.
Okay, so it's not as simple as just looking at the raw energy numbers.
Right.
It's about the bigger picture.
Exactly.
What about another common criticism, scalability?
Yeah.
Can Bitcoin actually handle the transaction volume needed to become a truly global currency?
This is a valid concern.
Okay.
Bitcoin's original design prioritized security and decentralization over transaction speed,
Right.
which means it can only process a limited number of transactions per second.
Okay.
As more people use Bitcoin, the network can get congested,
Yeah.
leading to slower transaction times and higher fees.
So is Bitcoin destined to be a niche technology because it simply can't handle the load of a global currency?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Amos and many in the Bitcoin community are confident that scalability can be addressed through technological innovations.
Yeah. Like what?
One solution is the Lightning Network.
Okay.
Think of it as a second layer built on top of the main Bitcoin blockchain.
Okay.
It enables faster and cheaper transactions by moving many of them off-chain.
So it's like adding express lanes to a highway to handle more traffic.
Right.
But is that enough?
Yeah.
Some critics argue that these solutions are just band-aids and that Bitcoin's fundamental architecture will always limit its ability to scale.
It's a debate that's still unfolding.
Right.
But the point is the Bitcoin community is constantly innovating and looking for ways to overcome these challenges.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What about another criticism that we hear a lot?
Yeah.
Bitcoin's use in criminal activities.
Right.
How does Amos address that?
It's true that Bitcoin has been used for illegal activities, just like any form of money.
Right. But Amos argues that this shouldn't overshadow its potential for good.
Okay.
Cash is still the preferred tool for criminals.
Right.
And even traditional banks have been implicated in money laundering and other shady dealings.
So Bitcoin isn't unique in this regard.
Right.
It's just another tool that can be used for both good and bad purposes.
Exactly. And as Bitcoin adoption grows, law enforcement agencies are becoming more adept at tracking and tracing Bitcoin transactions,
Right.
making it a less attractive option for criminals.
It sounds like Amos believes that the potential benefits of Bitcoin far outweigh the risks.
He does.
Okay.
He sees Bitcoin as a tool that can promote financial freedom,
Right.
empower individuals,
Yeah.
and create a more equitable financial system.
Okay.
He argues that it's crucial to look beyond the sensational headlines and understand the underlying principles and potential of this technology.
I'm starting to see why this book has generated so much discussion.
Yeah.
It challenges our assumptions about money
Right.
and opens up all sorts of possibilities.
It does. But is Bitcoin really the future of money?
Yeah.
Or is it just a fascinating experiment?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right.
And I think that's what makes this book so compelling.
Yeah.
Amos doesn't claim to have all the answers.
Right.
But he makes a powerful case for why we need to seriously consider Bitcoin's potential.
It's a book that stays with you long after you finish reading it.
It is.
It definitely made me rethink my own relationship with money.
I feel that.
But before we wrap up this deep dive, there's
Okay.
one more topic I want to touch on.
Okay.
In the last chapter, Amos explores the link between sound money and individual freedom.
Yeah.
That's a connection I hadn't really considered before.
This is where the book takes a philosophical turn, and it's one of the most thought-provoking sections.
Okay.
Amos argues that government control over money is inherently dangerous to individual liberty.
Okay.
He believes that when governments can print money at will, they have too much power.
It's like giving the government a blank check. They can spend without accountability.
Right.
And the burden ultimately falls on the citizens through inflation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Amos points out that throughout history, governments have used their control over money to wage wars,
Right.
fund oppressive regimes,
Yeah.
and erode the economic independence of their citizens.
That's a scary thought.
It is.
Yeah.
He believes that sound money, like gold or potentially Bitcoin,
Right.
acts as a check on government power
Okay.
by limiting their ability to manipulate the economy for their own benefit.
So sound money isn't just about protecting your savings from inflation.
Right.
It's also about safeguarding individual freedom and limiting the power of the state.
Yeah.
That's a really profound idea.
It is, and it's at the heart of what makes this book so relevant today.
Yeah.
In a world where governments and institutions are increasingly exerting control over our lives,
Right.
Bitcoin offers a potential path towards greater individual sovereignty and economic empowerment.
You know, it's funny. Before diving into this book, I never really questioned the money we use every day.
It was just there, like the air we breathe.
Yeah.
Amos pulled back the curtain, and I'm like seeing the financial system with new eyes.
Right.
It's both fascinating and a little unsettling.
Yeah.
I'm starting to understand why so many people are passionate about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It's not just about the technology. It's about, like, challenging the status quo.
Exactly. And that's what makes the Bitcoin standard so thought-provoking.
Right.
It's not just a technical manual about how Bitcoin works.
Right.
It's a philosophical exploration of what money is,
Yeah.
how it shapes our world, and how we might create a better system.
So what's the takeaway?
Yeah.
What does Amos suggest we, do with all this knowledge?
He doesn't offer a step-by-step guide.
Okay.
He's not saying everyone should run out and buy Bitcoin tomorrow.
Right.
But he does present a vision for a future where sound money principles are once again at the heart of our financial system.
A world where we're not at the mercy of central banks,
Right.
printing money whenever they feel like it.
Yeah. A world where individuals have more control over their own financial destinies.
Right. A world where economies are built on a solid foundation of scarcity, stability, and individual responsibility.
But let's be realistic.
Right.
There are challenges to overcome.
Yeah.
We've talked about some of the technical hurdles like scalability,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's the whole regulatory landscape.
Yeah.
Governments aren't exactly known for embracing radical change.
True. But as Amos reminds us, the history of money is a story of evolution.
Okay.
What we use as money has changed dramatically over time,
Right.
from seashells to gold to paper money,
Right.
and now maybe to digital currencies like Bitcoin.
It's a reminder that we're not stuck with the current system.
Right.
We have the power to choose a system that better aligns with our values.
And that's perhaps the most important message of the Bitcoin standard.
Okay.
It's about empowering ourselves with knowledge,
Right.
understanding how money shapes our lives,
Yeah.
and engaging in the debate about how to build a better future.
So if you're listening to this and feeling overwhelmed by all this information, don't worry.
Yeah.
That's totally normal. I felt the same way when I first started reading this book.
Yeah. I hear that.
But that feeling of being challenged is a good thing.
Right.
It means we're learning, we're growing, and we're starting to think critically about something that affects every aspect of our lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This isn't a topic you need to master overnight.
Right.
Amos has given us a framework for understanding money and its implications.
Yeah.
Now it's up to each of us to continue exploring, asking questions, and forming our own opinions.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Bitcoin standard, what's the one thought you'd like to leave our listener with?
I think the key takeaway is this.
Okay.
The future of money is being written right now.
Right.
It's not some predetermined outcome.
Right.
We as individuals and as a society have the power to shape that future. Whether Bitcoin becomes the dominant form of money or something else, entirely emerges the principles of sound money, scarcity, decentralization, individual sovereignty. These are ideas whose time has come.
That's a powerful message. It's
Yeah.
a call to action for all of us.
It is.
And it's a conversation that goes way beyond just Bitcoin.
Right.
It's about reclaiming our financial freedom, building a more equitable system, and shaping a future that works for everyone.
So to our listener, if this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, don't stop here.
Right.
Keep reading, keep learning, keep challenging the status quo.
Yeah.
The future of money is in your hands.
And who knows, maybe one day we'll look back at this time as like a turning point.
Totally.
The moment when we started to build a new financial world, one based on sound money, individual empowerment, and a brighter future for all.
I hope so.